My name is Juan Botero. I'm based in Colombia. My experience is based as a JD Edwards Enterprise One CNC Oracle architect, and also 6 years working with Amazon Web Services technologies from the cloud computing perspective. I'm already certified as an AWS solutions architect. So thanks to everyone to attend this session. Okay, so we will start. Today we hear a lot of new terms about digital transformation, Industry 4.0, and related to JD Edwards and related to cloud computing. There is not an exception. It is not an exception. So today we are going to, okay, let me see. Today we are going to see the benefits, risk, and challenges that we have behind adopting cloud computing in any of our environments, wherever we have JD Edwards or not. But the things we need to consider so we can adopt this type of technologies successfully. We're going to see in the agenda cloud computing service model for JD Edwards, which is the service model that best adapt to JDE, whether ES, whether PaaS, whether SaaS, which it is not available from Oracle. The deployment strategy, we have here some experience that I'm going to tell you related to JD Edwards deployment strategies in AWS, Amazon Web Services, for non-production environments, for disaster recovery environments, and for the new technologies that JD Edwards Enterprise One, that Oracle actually provides through JD Edwards Enterprise One, as the Internet of Things, big data, business analytics. And lastly, we're going to have a session about the ways of exploring transformative technologies. These are the technologies which are related to the digital factory or smart factory, or the best we know as Industry 4.0. Well, starting, as we mentioned, related to adopting a cloud computing journey, we have to check our benefits, the risk and challenges, all of these related to the adoption. We all know cloud computing in many ways can give an organization a lot of benefits, from organizational agility, rapid and tied to market and tied to time to value, which is the ability to go to market with new products and new service in a way we couldn't do it before, right? Because we had to many times to purchase new technology. We had to adhere to these process cycles of buying technology from the purchase department. Now with cloud computing, we have so many benefits available, and we can speed up this process. And obviously, it has a direct benefit over the business. Also, as the benefit cost reduction, we already know that we can go with cloud computing from CapEx to operational expenses to OpEx. We don't we don't need to do upfront purchases about new technology, infrastructure, operating system licenses, antivirus licenses, all of these components. Additionally, one of the most important benefits is that with new practices, the new standards, the new methodologies, it is very important that business and IT can align better. So that means that IT, information technology, we can better understand what the business do. And if we understand what the business really do, then we can help the business to adopt these new technologies so we can drive competitive ways to adopt new technologies. Also, as an important benefit, we have elasticity. That's the main factor cloud computing is. The way we can scale out or scale in dynamically computer capacity. And lastly, but not less important, when we talk about resiliency. Resiliency means the way infrastructure it is able to heal, it is able to recover from an infrastructure issue. So it is very important. And these new technologies can be adapted and applied today in cloud computing on the infrastructure as code. In AWS, in Amazon Web Services, they talked about that infrastructure is not a tangible. It is infrastructure as code, and they say it is disposable. I can provision a computer, a virtual machine, with more than 100 cores of CPU, with more than 2 terabytes of RAM, and I can use it for the time I need it. I only pay for the resources over the time I consume these resources, and I can, once finished, I can destroy this infrastructure capacity. So that is what they call disposable infrastructure. Well, now we all know that cloud computing also drives a lot of risk and challenges that if we don't consider critical factors when going to cloud computing, wherever the strategy we are going to use to transform to this new paradigm. So the principle or the main risk we have when we adopt cloud computing, we all know we need to be very clear about data, right? Where the data needs to be. That's what is called data sovereignty, because we need to be in compliance. There is an obligation to be in compliance. So if we don't consider this critical factor to be in compliance, then we could give risk to the business, to the organization. Also, one of the important things to consider is connectivity. When we talk about cloud computing, we depend of connectivity to these data centers, wherever it might be AWS, Google, Microsoft Azure, Oracle Cloud. Whatever cloud we are going to use, we need to consider all the factors related to connectivity. So we can mitigate jittering, we can mitigate latency, because if we have these factors that impact the business, so it might be a risk that can complicate cloud adoption, especially in Latin America. It is a factor that it could be complicated because it's not the same speed that we have in the US, that we have in Canada. Is not the same technology. It is even more expensive. It is even more expensive in Latin America, trying to adopt strategies like direct connect solutions that these CSPs, cloud service providers, provide, so we can have a better connection to their data centers. We also have some challenges when migrating, when transferring workloads from on-premises to the cloud. This one, as we mentioned before, compliance, so it is very important. One of the main challenges we also have are integration. We need to consider what other type of applications, solutions, or platforms we currently integrate with our workload that we think we are going to migrate or upload to the cloud. Another critical factor to consider is portability. Sometimes we may have on-premise workloads or platforms where we have risk processing that it might not be portable to cloud computing. We all know that the cloud computing platform, it is not RISC, it is Intel. And also a big challenge is data migration to the cloud, because its sensitivity and also because of its volume. Maybe in US we have services from AWS, from Microsoft, so we can they can send to the client devices, so we can attach these devices to the data center and transfer petabytes or exabytes or data, something that it may not be possible in Latin America. So in Latin America, it is very important to know the services third-party organizations or third-party products they build, so we can upload this data from on-premises to the cloud in a better way. For example, with Amazon Web Services, we have a new service which is an AWS database migration services, and this service connects to my database on-premise and start uploading data to the cloud at a much higher speed. So in conclusion, it is very important we always consider these three factors: benefits, risk, and challenges. These have to be aligned with business strategy. What does the business wants? What the business wants from adopting cloud computing? Optimize time to market, time to value, or reduce cost, or have a better capacity or visibility of exploring new technologies, of new ways, or evolving its business. Okay. Related to cloud, we know we have two deployment services, especially my experience is based in infrastructure as a service. These are the services or the deployment service AWS provides, where we can build solutions for the PaaS and from the SaaS perspective. Infrastructure as a service delivers the most flexible environment. Organizations must consider to deploy Oracle JD Edwards in the cloud. To get the full benefits of flexibility and adoption of transformative technologies with the cloud providers. Best options for IoT, big data, business analytics, and related technologies that allow digital transformation and evolution to the Industry 4.0 operational model. JD Edwards Enterprise One, we could say it's legacy or monolithic application technology. However, Oracle has been investing a lot of resources to evolve the JD Edwards product. JD Edwards, every time there is a new release or every time there is a new tool release update, there is always something new. We can see that exploring the new updates to Enterprise One 9.2, they recently released the User Experience Suite. Also, they're adopting the IoT Orchestrator Studio. As well, there are also third-party solutions that we can build data lakes in the cloud so we can better use this transactional data and we can use it from the big data perspective. As you can see, all of these technologies, that is what really the business needs to go on to evolve to be more competitive. That we could say it is almost impossible to have these technologies on premise. Technologies for the big data strategy, technologies for the IoT strategy, technologies for the business analytics, for artificial intelligence, for additive manufacturing, for all these type of technologies. If we try to implement this on premise, it would be obviously non-viable for the business because of its cost. So in the cloud, with the ES infrastructure as a service deployment model, we can build, we can construct, and we can dispose, we can destroy these resources once we don't need them. Well, we have here, these are actually I use with my customers in Latin America, customers that already have JD Edwards Enterprise One running for their businesses since many years ago. Customers that many of them today are starting to upgrade to new releases, like let's say from XE, from 8.10 to the 9.2. So I start by promoting the client, the customer, to start exploring cloud computing with AWS. So okay, if we are going to start the project, if you buy the infrastructure today just to start the project, not even for production, only the infrastructure we need for the project, we will have to wait like 4 months or 5 months so we can start the project. If we start deploying the components, the architecture, the 9.2 architecture needs to be deployed, we could say that on Monday we could have 9.2 for project execution. So that's what is called time to value, time to market. We reduce a lot of time and the business see the benefit immediately. Today, with many customers, I'm not saying that I'm taking this or migrating these customers to the cloud for production. No, we are starting the project in AWS, in the cloud platform. Once they buy their infrastructure for production, when they get the infrastructure on premise, we could say that the project is already advanced at 70–80% or almost finished. Another case, which is a viable case where the customer can run Enterprise One in the cloud, it is for development, testing, Q&A, or staging environments, what we know as a non-production environments. So the customers, they don't have to buy any infrastructure, storage, or licensing for non-production environments. So this non-production environment can easily live in the Amazon Web Services cloud. One of the other benefits of adopting this type of environments in the cloud, as I said to the customers, non-production environments are environments that are not 24/7. These are actually environments that run from Monday a.m. in the morning until 6–7 p.m. Every day until Friday. So we actually schedule the turn off and turn on of this infrastructure on the cloud. When these components or when this architecture it's off, obviously the costs are zero for compute capacity. However, the only component we have to pay because of its persistence is storage, right? But while we have the infrastructure off, we don't pay for that compute capacity. One of the other important use cases with JD Edwards or whatever, ERP or CRM or this type of architecture, it's disaster recovery, which is part of the business continuity plan. It's not the same, it's different. Disaster recovery, it's only a part of the business continuity plan. When we talk about disaster recovery, it means how much time do we take to recover the service, and how much data are we able to recover from disaster. This is what we know as the RTO, the recovery time objective, which is, okay, if the business interrupts right now because there is no service, how much time do we take to recover service? And we also have RPO, recovery point objective. How much data is the business, how much data can we recover? If the data was lost 5 minutes ago, how much the business can tolerate of data loss? So we know there are a lot of strategies like zero downtime, synchronous replication that can be expensive, but it depends on the business requirements. When we adopt disaster recovery in the cloud, we are able to have a minimum capacity of infrastructure deployed in the cloud. In the traditional way, we need to keep a data center, we need remote personnel for assistance, we need to buy infrastructure that have the same capacity of the production infrastructure, with the difference that this infrastructure is going to be idle 99%. So we are wasting money here. Here we are wasting a lot of money because of resources we provide, we deploy, and we are not using. It is only on just to get the replication logs from the production environment. So in the case of cloud computing, this is a big opportunity for customers, because it is expensive to have a disaster recovery data center, disaster recovery components. It is very expensive in the traditional way, while in the cloud, it is something that it can be compared in cost with the traditional way we have been doing it for years. Another important strategy for deployment, it's when we want to deploy or explore these new technologies with our ERP, with our CRM software, with our WMS solution, and is this type of new technologies which could be very expensive if we think to deploy these on premises, like big data, IoT, business analytics. We all know there are emerging new strategies today, like machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning. All of these new technologies, it would be very expensive to think deploying these on premises. So actually, these are the three different use cases we are using today with all the methodology and frameworks to start migrating these use cases to the cloud. Although there are many clients that some of them are running their production workloads in the cloud. But when this happens, when the client already has a confidence of the not only of the cloud provider, but has confidence of the his partner, right? The one who helps the customers to build their capabilities, their cloud computing capabilities. Porque this is not only migrating virtual machines, it's not migrating data, no. It is transforming, it is learning new capabilities, and it's adopting a new ways of working as we were used to do it. Okay. Concluding disaster recovery strategies, this is the one we most commonly use, which is called Pilot Light. At the left, we have our on-premise production data center, where we have all the components running 24/7. And on the right, we have our standby disaster recovery site in the cloud, where, as we can see, we have some infrastructure components turned off, and we have only one infrastructure components which is turned on, which is the database. We can see here that the size or capacity of this component is not the same as production. But remember that we cannot scale even to more capacity than we have in production once we need to switch over or fail over from on-premise to the standby data center. If there is also a need to replicate from file servers, from web servers, from application servers, from the production data center. So we could do the same with the remaining components. Start them, but we can provision them in a with minimal compute capacity. We don't need to deploy this capacity the same as infrastructure components, production components. Okay. As we see here, and we talked about this early on, we also have transformative technologies. These are the technologies that make that help us build all the capabilities related to all of these new technologies: artificial intelligence, business analytics, big data, Internet of Things, machine learning, mobility computing, social computing. So all of these new strategies, we can start adopting them in the cloud. And not also in the cloud, but we can start integrating this type of strategies with our business solution, with our ERP, CRM, WMS, whatever solution we have already deployed, and we want to extract data, and we want to implement better strategies so we can analyze data in a better way, so we can implement this type of new technologies in the cloud. So as an overview, cloud computing allow us to have better organizational agility, as we did with the example when the business wants to execute new projects. If we don't have to wait a number of months just to get infrastructure, additionally, once we get infrastructure, the time it takes so we can start installing components in this new infrastructure, the operating system, configuring storage, deploying database servers, SQL, Oracle servers, whatever, and after this, start deploying the application. So when we can see here that with organizational agility, it is something very attractive to customers. Time to market improvement, that's related to organizational agility. Something very important here, that it's new terms. Today with cloud computing, one of the big benefits of cloud computing is fail fast. That means we have better capabilities, so we can start exploring new ideas to the business. A lot of times the business does not explore new ideas because all the money has to put on so the new idea can start running. Even we don't know if it's going to work or if it is not going to work. So with the cloud, this is a big benefit. Fail fast and quick wins. If we see that it's not going to work, so we can dispose. That's why AWS calls this infrastructure disposable infrastructure. We can destroy, and we only pay for this infrastructure for the time we use it, for the time we consume this infrastructure. From capital expenses to operational expenses, we're used to buy assets, a server, a storage. It's one more company asset, as a truck, as a warehouse, as a building, as an office. Um, this type of infrastructure is the same. It's one more asset. The difference here is that with IT components, uh, we buy assets, which is server, storage, and even worse, we pay the 100% cost of the asset to only use 5%, 3%, 10%. We all know when we are going to buy new, the way we used to do it, when we buy new technology, when we buy new infrastructure, actually we do capacity planning. We buy today 100% capacity that the business is going to need within 3, 4, 5 years. But today we have to pay 100% capacity, even though we are not going to use it. We are going only to use 5 to 10% of that capacity. So that's wasting money. That is one of the big problems that cloud computing solves. And it transforms its capital expenses to variable operational expenses. Also, we have the ability to explore and discover new ways of doing things. Explore and discover what new technologies we can adopt to the business. What can we build on the cloud? And we see in the right, there is a new site of Amazon Web Services, which is called www.buildon.aws. So this is something new from AWS, that what AWS wants is that customers, that business, that industries start adopting these new ways, so it allows the companies and the business to explore and discover new ways of doing things. So I recommend you can explore this AWS site. Well, another important factor here is information technology as a service. We have already heard a lot about MSP, or what is called managed service provider. That's what actually cloud computing practices wants, about whether organizations wants to keep doing maintenance, support, repetitive tasks on premise that doesn't have any value to the business, or whether you want to transfer to the MSP practices and the IT really aligns with the business. And the IT not only knows IT, but better knows the business and understand the business and can help the business to evolve with the new technologies that exist today from the industry. Also very important, as we mentioned before, this new platform, this new strategy, it is the commodity to start exploring, deploying the components that make the fourth industrial revolution, or what is called technically the Industry 4.0. And lastly, we can start the digital transformation at a higher speed. See, all of these digital transformation at a speed that we cannot reach this speed with on-premise practices or on-premise technologies. Well, concluding, here we have technically the two components that has most technical impact in the programs or projects about adopting cloud computing technologies. These are technical factors, right? Obviously, there are important or even more important technical factors like change management, people, obviously, building capabilities for the customer team. But technically, we have to consider these two factors. One of them, obviously, security. We have the one we have in the left side. We have to protect data, right? We have to protect any type of data in transit, in motion, and at rest. And we need to know what type of technologies or what type of services we can deploy in the cloud computing provider so we can protect our information, our data, whether it is traveling from on-premises to the cloud, whether it's processing or at the rest, where it is being stored, this data. There are a lot of services, depending on the services that can help us protect our data. Obviously, depends the cost. Also, we have an important and a critical factor, which is communication, connectivity. And we have three main components to consider: bandwidth, latency, and jittering. So a lot of people, a lot of times, these critical factors related to connectivity, these are outside of our domains. The main domains is the business, obviously, and the partner, the partner who has the methods, the partner who has the expertise and the capabilities to help the customer in the journey. But most of the time, these components related to connectivity are components that are built from other partners, from ISPs, from internet service providers. So we need to relate, we need to build a good relationship and be very clear with their SLAs. Well, this is a message from Gartner. Sometimes, or a lot of times today in the industry, there are a lot of customers, clients, organizations that still don't believe in the cloud. So it is important for me to give you this message. Corporate no cloud policy will be as rare as a not internet policy is today. What Gartner means with this is it's exactly the same that happens with internet 20 years ago. We don't need internet. It is not needed internet for our business. If the business doesn't have internet, it's easy. The business doesn't exist. So this is going to be the same, and in a few years it's going to happen the same way if companies doesn't start adopting today cloud computing and transformative technologies. Well, to finish, we have here a slide what I resume what it is a transformation program. A cloud computing journey, it is not an IT project. It is not an IT project. It is an organizational transformation program. It is a company program where stakeholders need to be involved, and A cloud center of excellence need to be built for the transformation program. We see here an example. Today, we don't want those type of projects with um, we promise to the client, okay, let's let's implement for your business strategy SAP, Microsoft, or Oracle JD Edwards. So the client needs to pay, I don't know, $2 million only on licenses. Additionally, the money has to pay for infrastructure, besides the consulting partner, and maybe uh, could see the value in 2 years in the better case. So that type of projects are not very, let's say, very attractive for industry today. So we have here a methodology where we execute short projects, and when we reach the value of that project, that means we are we are giving that value to the customer. When we give value to the customer, we not only get knowledge, experience, and maturity, we give credibility and trust to the customer. If we get credibility and trust to the customer, we get opportunity for the next project. And you can see this is like stairs going up, up, up. For every step or for every value we reach with a customer, we have more opportunity. And we can just not sell IT services to the customer. No, we have the opportunity to understand the customer's business. And if we understand the customer's business, so we can help in a better way the customer. Well, I hope um, this presentation was within your expectations.
All right.
Humberto,
Thank you so much, Juan. I think it was an excellent presentation. I'm wondering if we're going to open for questions uh, or feedback.
yeah, please.
So, Jenny, can you, are the attendees able to speak and hear? Jenny,
Jenny.
anybody? Okay, they can hear us, but I don't know if they can
They can.
actually speak. I don't see if I don't know if Jenny is available.
Jenny, hello.
She's
Hello?
muted.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here.
I don't know if we can hear the participants and if they have questions.
No questions.
Okay. All right. So then I guess we can move on and thank everybody for attending. We also want to leave our information. I think everyone has it in case you need to call us or get more information or interested in going forward with it.
Sorry, Humberto,
Yes.
one question. Um,
I'm sorry, I didn't. I think we're getting questions to the chat. Maybe Juan, you want to read them out and answer.
Yeah, sure. Let me.
And the question is, what is the best approach for a situation like we have in Puerto Rico where we have lost communications? What kind of redundancy you can have in going out to the internet and not losing your capability. I don't know if you can speak with regards to that.
Yeah, that's a real complicated situation because of its because it's a natural disaster. So it is important to consider first from business view, from business perspective, having in mind that this type of disasters can happen in Puerto Rico. It's first to define its uh, recovery time objective and recovery point objective, right? Because from a business strategy, the result might be that the data center, if if the business from Puerto Rico sells its solutions or sells its products not only in Puerto Rico but also worldwide. So it is important to define that maybe Puerto Rico it's not the best place to have its data center, and maybe it is better to have this exposed in a data center in the cloud, whether it be AWS, Google, Oracle, IBM, or Azure. So that's the
Yeah,
first.
I think the question goes more to the point that, okay, your data center, let's say it's in North Dakota, out of Hurricane Alley with no problem regarding anything else in a bunker. But if you lose communications in Puerto Rico, there is no way you can reach out that data center. So you need to have some redundancy in the way you communicate out. Um, and then
Right.
there are many services available. It doesn't necessarily have to be. It would be something satellite or along those lines. But definitely the hosting of the information cannot be where the disaster is happening. And that's what happened actually in the government of Puerto Rico, where they had some redundancy centers on the other side of the islands, and now they're both down. So you don't really have anything to bring it up from. But it goes more to the line of communication outside to the data center, that you need to have some type of availability 100% to be able to actually process information.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, it actually depends, as Humberto said, in redundant components about the local ISP. How many channels of connectivity uh, may be an option to have redundant. So if one goes down, how can we establish connection with the other ISP or the other solution to get
And
the
I, and I,
connection to the cloud?
Uh, And speaking from the Puerto Rico side, I believe that the experience we had with Maria and the aftermath, you will see some internet providers that are going to go in a different manner, being it the Google balloons or connectivity through satellite, or some of the things that are more constant and are not affected by local uh, God events, acts of God, but rather than by your ability to connect to something remote, that being a satellite, Google Balloon, etc. But that will be more available once things settle here, and I believe companies are going to start looking at alternatives because they have lost tremendous amount of money uh, with by not providing the services. So it's a big motivation there to have alternative connections.